Episode 1 begins on a rainy evening, the kind that makes office buildings feel even colder than they already are. The CEO, Adrian Hale, had stayed late again, reviewing numbers that refused to make sense no matter how many times he checked them. His company was stable, but his life wasn't. Loneliness had become a quiet companion, one he tried to drown under piles of work and meetings. As he walked toward the elevator, tired and rubbing his temples, he heard tiny footsteps echoing in the empty hallway. At first, he thought his mind was playing tricks on him. No one brought kids to the 32nd floor. But then he saw her, a little girl with tangled hair, clutching a worn-out pink backpack to her chest. She couldn't have been more than 6. She looked up at him with big, worried eyes. "Sir, my mommy is crying in the bathroom." Her voice trembled, and Adrian froze mid-step. Those words pierced something inside him he didn't even know was exposed. He lowered himself to her height, unsure how to respond. "Your mommy," he repeated softly. The girl nodded, biting her lip hard enough to turn it white. She thought nobody would see. "But I saw. I'm scared." Adrian had never dealt with a child before, yet something in her fear pushed him into motion. "Show me," he said gently, and the girl took his hand as if she'd been waiting for someone to ask. Her small fingers were cold, trembling. She led him through a dim hallway toward the employee washrooms. As they approached, the faint sound of muffled sobs leaked through the door, the kind that came from someone trying too hard to stay silent. The little girl pointed at the door, eyes filling with tears. "She never cries like this." Adrian hesitated only a moment before knocking. "Hello, I'm Adrian Hale. Is everything all right in there?" The sobs stopped instantly, followed by hurried rustling. Then a broken voice answered, I'm fine. Please ignore it." But he couldn't, not when a child stood outside terrified. When the door opened, a young woman stood there, her eyes red and puffy, mascara smudged, hands shaking. It was Maya, one of the evening cleaners he'd only passed by with polite nods. She looked embarrassed, almost ashamed to be seen in such a state. "I'm so sorry, sir," she whispered. "I didn't want anyone to know." Before he could ask anything, Maya's daughter ran forward and hugged her legs. "Mommy, don't cry." Adrian watched the scene quietly, something tightening in his chest. Maya wiped her tears quickly. "I'm sorry. It won't happen again. Please don't report me. I really need this job." Her voice cracked on the last word. Adrian's brows pulled together. "No one's reporting anything," he said firmly. "But I need to know why you're crying alone in a bathroom after hours." Episode 2 unfolds with Maya hesitating, eyes darting between him and her daughter. She looked like someone who had been holding too much for too long. Finally, she breathed out, "My landlord raised the rent. I can't pay it this month, and he said he'll evict us in 3 days. Adrian felt a jolt, not of pity but of anger that someone could threaten a woman working 2 shifts and raising a child alone. "Why didn't you tell HR?" he asked. Maya shook her head. "I'm just cleaning staff, sir. Nobody listens." The little girl tugged Adrian's sleeve again. "Can you help my mommy?" she whispered, her eyes glistening. In that moment, something shifted. Adrian wasn't just a CEO looking at an employee, he was a man looking at someone who desperately needed help. He took a slow breath. "Come with me," he said. Maya blinked, confused. "Sir." Adrian straightened. "I said come with me. Both of you." And for the first time in years, he acted from instinct rather than logic, doing something no one expected from the cold, distant CEO everyone thought they knew. Episode 3 begins as Adrian walks ahead with calm purpose, though inside he is anything but calm. Maya follows hesitantly, her daughter's small hand gripping hers tightly. She kept glancing around, unsure whether she was walking toward help or trouble. Adrian didn't speak at first. He was thinking, trying to understand why this woman had to break alone in a washroom while the world carried on without noticing. The elevator ride felt strangely quiet. The little girl leaned against her mother, while Maya tried to wipe away the last of her tears, embarrassed to be seen in such a vulnerable state. When the doors opened to the executive floor, she froze. "Sir, I don't think we're supposed to be here," she whispered. Adrian turned to them. "You are with me. That's enough." His tone was firm but not harsh. He led them into his office, a space so polished and quiet it felt like a different world compared to the corridors Maya cleaned every night. She looked around nervously, afraid to touch anything, while her daughter wandered toward the massive window, mesmerized by the city lights below. Adrian gestured to the couch. "Please, sit." Maya obeyed slowly, her posture stiff. She didn't want to impose. She didn't want to seem ungrateful. She just didn't want to cry again. Adrian sat across from her. "You should have told someone," he said. "You're not invisible. Not here." Maya lowered her eyes. "People like me, we stay out of the way. We work, we clean, we go home. No one wants our problems." Her honesty stung him more than he expected. He'd built a company obsessed with efficiency, but perhaps at the cost of humanity. "What exactly do you owe in rent?" he asked. Maya's shoulders tensed. "Sir, I'm not asking for money, Maya," he interrupted softly. "I asked for a number." After a long pause, she murmured the amount. It wasn't small, but it wasn't impossible either, not for a man with more wealth than he knew what to do with. But this wasn't about money. It was about something else entirely, the fact that a hard-working single mother had been pushed to desperation while working under his roof. He leaned back, thinking. The little girl walked over and climbed onto the couch beside her mother, resting her head in Maya's lap. Adrian watched them quietly. A simple question formed in his mind, surprising even himself. "Do you have anyone to help you? Family? Friends?" Maya shook her head. "No one," she whispered. The room fell silent. For years, Adrian had avoided involving himself emotionally with anyone. But now, faced with this woman and her child, he felt something shift, an urge to step in, to protect, to fix what should never have been broken. Episode 4 continues as a knock on the door startled them. Adrian's assistant peeked in, confused to see guests at such a late hour. "Is everything all right, sir?" she asked. Adrian nodded. "Cancel my remaining schedule." The assistant blinked. "But sir, you had..." "Cancel it," he repeated. She swallowed and left. Maya stared at him as though she were witnessing something impossible. "Sir, you don't have to do all this for us." "Yes, I do," he said calmly. "Because you work hard. Because no one should face eviction while giving their best to my company. Because your daughter shouldn't be scared for you." The girl looked up at him with wide eyes, as if she were seeing a hero in a place she never expected to find one. Adrian stood and picked up his phone. "I'll speak to HR first. Then your landlord. And then I'll arrange something more stable for you." Maya nearly jumped to her feet. "Sir, please, I don't need charity," he shook his head. "This isn't charity. This is responsibility." Maya's voice shook. Why help us?" Adrian paused, meeting her gaze. With sincere eyes. "Because someone should have stepped in long before you cried alone in a bathroom." And for the first time, she believed he meant it. Episode 5 begins with the office clock striking past 9, long after most employees had gone home. Yet the three of them remained, Adrian at his desk, Maya sitting tensely on the couch, and her daughter curled up beside her, slowly drifting toward sleep. The room felt warmer than before, not because of the lights, but because something unspoken had shifted between them. Adrian was on the phone with Auer, his voice calm but firm. "I want her contract reviewed immediately. Full-time, benefits, housing support if available. No delay." On the other end, HR scrambled in surprise. The CEO rarely involved himself so personally. When he finally ended the call, Maya exhaled, but she still looked uneasy. "Sir, this is too much. I don't deserve all this." Adrian studied her carefully. "You deserve safety. That's not too much." She opened her mouth to argue but stopped when she saw the determination in his eyes. He wasn't doing this out of pity, he was doing it because he truly cared, though he didn't fully understand why yet. He then dialed her landlord, putting the call on speaker so Maya could hear. The man answered with a rude tone, but his voice immediately softened when Adrian introduced himself. "You raised her rent without notice," Adrian said. "You threatened eviction. That ends tonight." The landlord stuttered, trying to defend himself, but Adrian's voice cut through. "She is under my company. Any action against her becomes a matter involving us directly. I trust you understand what that means." Within minutes, the landlord was apologizing, promising to give her more time, even hinting at lowering the rent back. When Adrian hung up, Maya covered her mouth with shaking hands. She had fought alone for years, and in minutes, Adrian had achieved what she couldn't in months. But instead of celebrating, Maya's eyes filled again, not with fear this time, but with exhaustion and overwhelming relief. "Sir, I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Adrian looked at her daughter sleeping soundly on the couch and said quietly, "Just don't cry alone again." Episode 6 begins when Adrian notices how late it has become. "You can't go home this late with a sleeping child," he said. I'll arrange a car to take you both safely. But before he could call security, Maya hesitated. Sir, can I ask something? Her voice was soft, cautious. He turned toward her, giving her his full attention. Of course. Why did you really help us? People don't do all this for strangers. She wasn't accusing him, she was scared to trust, scared this kindness would disappear as suddenly as it appeared. Adrian took a moment, then answered honestly. Because I know what it feels like when a place full of people still makes you feel alone. And because your daughter asked for help in a way no adult ever does, pure, honest, without fear of judgment. Maya lowered her gaze, touched more deeply than she expected. She doesn't trust people easily, she murmured. But she trusted you. Adrian didn't know what to say to that. A child's trust was something he wasn't used to earning. The little girl stirred in her sleep, then woke groggily and looked around. Mommy, are you okay now? Maya stroked her hair. Yes, baby, I'm okay. The girl blinked up at Adrian, her voice small. Thank you for helping my mommy. Adrian felt something inside him soften in a way he hadn't felt in years. You're welcome, he said gently. He finally arranged for a company driver to escort them home. As they stood to leave, Maya paused at the door. Sir, you changed everything for us tonight. I won't forget this. Adrian watched them walk toward the elevator. The mother holding her daughter, the daughter glancing back at him with sleepy gratitude. When the doors closed, the office felt strangely empty. Adrian stood in silence, realizing something undeniable. Helping them had filled a part of him he didn't even know was empty. And he knew this wouldn't be the last time their paths crossed.